Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video, interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist / secular / awesome community. This is episode number 157. The interview was recorded live on August 21st, 2018. Football teams get a bye week, so I get one too. Kevin Logan was on my show 2 weeks ago, and somehow not one of the 50-plus Manosphere victims sent their trolls my way. Thanks for nothing, Kevin. Put in a good word for me, Rory Cat. This week I bring on a rare shit, gotta out myself, person of color, and a local person as well. Mandisa, Latifah Thomas, and I moved to Atlanta within a year of each other in the late 90s. And we've probably seen each other in town 4 times. I promise to rectify that. Mandisa won the UU, that's the Universal Unitarian Person of the Year award, and shared the stage with 3 reverends. She's the creator and president of Black Non-Believers, the premier community for African American non-religious people in the country, with chapters in cities across this once maybe never great nation. She's a board member at American Atheists and may do an amazing and groundbreaking audiobook project with them. There will be singing from her, and karaoke is never a bad idea.
You're fist pumping right now.
No, I'm not fist pumping.
Yes, you are.
Ah!
Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast, Mandisa Thomas.
Hello, everyone.
And it's a long time coming. I don't know if I've had other Atlanta people on. We had this matched Atlanta history. Like, you moved to Atlanta in 97, I moved to Atlanta in 96. We've been here for a while. We've been waiting for this blue state, maybe red state to turn blue, but anyway, good to get to chat with you on the air.
Yes, it's been a while. I know we had talked about me being on the show for a while now, so I'm glad I had the opportunity.
I guess maybe I just need to get a good amount of interview experience before I talk to one of the titans of this community. So I got you tonight, which is great. Now, sometimes I do out of context quotes. I'm going to do one in context quote, and then we'll get started. We are not psychiatrists. We can't save you.
Hey, I like that. We're also not God either.
Exactly. So around 2010, you had your second kind of atheist awakening. What made you decide to get Black Non-Believers off the ground? And by the way, that Black Non-Believers is behind you for the video people. And of course, I'm representing tonight.
Aha, yes. So when I became involved with the community, I found the Black Atheist group online, and then I remembered that, American Atheists was an organization that existed. And also, I really was excited to see, and also after doing some reflections, I was like, yeah, I'm an atheist. For a while I was reluctant to use the term. But I came out of that, and I really wanted to start meeting others. I had heard about a Black Atheist meetup that was coming up in Atlanta, and I wanted to find out more information. So from there, I found Meetup, and I was also talking with some other Black Atheists online about their experiences attending meetups overall, in general. And the experiences were not very good. And they were often, I was told that they were often treated like they were, it went from awkward to just, it was so weird. And so I wanted to give myself the chance, because I said, hey, if we're atheists, let's, that shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to try the scene here in Atlanta and see if it's different. So I went to a meetup in Decatur, and sure enough, I experienced almost exactly what some of the others said they experienced. I was told, I'd never met a Black atheist before. I mean, that's changing now, which is good. But back then it was like, yeah, I never met a Black atheist, and Just the other black guy, the only other black guy that was there, came in. I didn't know him from Adam, but the woman I was talking to offered her seat up so he could sit there, and I was like, well, I was talking to you. And so, yeah, the experience got really awkward really quickly. And so, but the other black guy we ended up brainstorming the local Black non-believers of Atlanta, which is how we started. And so from there, because be more of us out here, there's a lot of folks online. There has to be more of us in person as well. So it was a matter of bringing more out, and perhaps these groups aren't doing it because of stuff like this. And also with the high level, of religion in a Black community, it makes it that much much more difficult. So that platform needed to be created to help bring more of us together. And as you can see, even from the meetup we just had, it has worked. It has been successful in bringing out more of us, not to separate or isolate ourselves, but to be an important part of the community, to increase that diversity that we always talk about. People want to, see us and, want to, they want to be more welcoming, but, there are challenges there. So that's how we got started with Black non-believers. I kind of jumped in, with 2 feet, but, along the way, I was able to learn a lot and connect with quite a few folks. And so, it has been quite the experience.
Well, what's kind of your, I guess, elevator pitch for what Black non-believers is all about? We are a fellowship. Our primary focus is to increase the visibility of Black atheists within both the Black and secular communities, as well as to build that community and support for those atheists who need it. That is pretty much our end. Again, we're open to everyone, but our primary focus is to help bring out, to increase that, the demographic, because it is needed, especially within a highly religious Black community and a secular community that is still predominantly white represented. That was needed. And so, yeah, my background is in customer service and hospitality. And so, if you see me, I'm always smiling and friendly and saying hello to everybody. And so that's also a change that we needed to incorporate, not just into our organization, but into the communities, because there are a lot of, the community does struggle with its social interactions, to say the least. So, that's my pitch for BN, and I appreciate the support that we received. Well, I was going to ask you about what a typical Black non-believers meeting was like, but of course I attended the most recent one this weekend, so I'll quickly answer the question and then turn it back to you. So lots of intelligent people, good speaker, Your Majesty was there, food and beverage, and more Black non-believer merchandise than you'd see at a stadium rock concert. So one thing I heard from you during that meeting is that you would not do a Bible study. Why is that not your thing?
Say that one more time. I think we froze at one point.
Yeah, it started pouring, which has happened every other day in Atlanta this summer. It's the weirdest summer ever, so that might be some strange connection. At least we're in the same weather belt, which is good or bad. One thing that was mentioned, speaker mentioned, she was in finance, in churches, and talked to pastors and actually said, hey, the Bible doesn't really say that tithing is a thing. and she was talking about, oh, maybe you should go to a Bible study to talk to religious people, but you had to look like, no, hell no, no, no. So what was that all about?
Well, I wasn't formally raised religious. I actually don't like going into churches, and the Bible study and the Bible creeps me out. I haven't read it in its entirety, and I don't plan to. It is a book that I try not to delve into, but just the idea of now I would like to, challenge more people, like I said during the meeting, to speak up. But as far as like going into Bible study and kind of debating and fighting with believers, that's just not my thing, because I have a tendency to tell people, look, get that stuff out of my face. And that's because of my upbringing. I have never cared for going into any institution or being in any space that is so restrictive that you can't be yourself, that you can't question, that there isn't an environment for learning. And church isn't one of those, unless it's Bible based or unless it's what the pastor says. And so I'm not sure how effective that will ultimately be unless the believer comes to you. Unless, like Miss Delisa said, she kind of found it on her own. Now, I think that there's an opportunity for us to perhaps facilitate that a bit more when we speak out. My passion is connecting with those who are already there and who get it and who just need the help and support. It really is about building the community and building it up so that people can be more encouraged to speak out and speak up. Laying that foundation has been important to me. The thought of going into a Bible study and and challenging the believers. I mean, sure, it would be more humane than sitting in a church for an hour and then deciding that, like that Dylan Roof guy. But certainly it would, to me, it's just like, I'm not sure about that. Maybe y'all could do that, but I'm not sure if I would.
Well, I think one thing that's come through is these groups that have come up in the atheist community. They're good for people, and they're not necessarily good for everybody. Like, you're going to fit in different groups, and that's kind of the point. Now, one of the things that was mentioned at the meeting was that sometimes atheist groups can be a little boring, and of course a little pale and male. What is Black Non-Believers? What are some of the events, things that you do that try to go kind of outside the normal? Just, hey, let's get together and talk about our religious family members or the society we live in.
Mm-hmm. Well, for one, our general meetings do feature more of our voices. That is one of the things that is one of our missions. Again, in increasing that visibility within the Black and secular communities, we do feature and highlight, more people of color. But what we also do is, we've done, and some of these things were overdue to facilitate because I've been so busy. But we host movie nights. Sometimes we go bowling. We've even been to the strip club. It's just it's another social outing. We try to promote as much sex positivity as possible with being respectful to women and people who are doing that work. But we do encourage people to explore those sides of them that may have been restricted by their religious beliefs. And we also table at other events. We were at, I spoke at NanoCon. We tabled there. We also have done joint events with other atheist groups and secular groups. We hosted a joint meetup on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day last year with the Sunday Assembly, Atlanta. We hosted a potluck with them. I think we're going to do that again. We table we table at various events. We're going to be at Dragon Con again this year, and that's probably jumping ahead to some of the stuff that we have coming up. But we try to do a variety of things, a hodgepodge, if you will, of events that will avail ourselves to the community and different communities. For example, we also partnered last year with we were a community partner with the Atlanta Women's March, and we will also be one of the sponsors for the anniversary event, which actually took place. So we were sponsor for the anniversary event for the Women's March, and so we try to whatever we are when people contact us, we respond to it and we try to join in, and we also look for those opportunities as well. But and we also I also co-host the quarterly radio show on WRFG 89.3 FM with Sharon. A shout out to her. So that's also outreach that we provide to the to the general public, because the show focuses on everything atheist related.
Nice to get that on local radio.
Yes.
So how did this organization and your own personal awesomeness lead to you becoming a coveted speaker in the atheist convention circuit? And do you have any stories about like the first time you went up and spoke in front of a group like that?
Yes. Actually, the first time I spoke I attended the American Atheist National Convention in 2011, the same year I became active. And I connected with some of the organizers there, and we started talking about how we could increase outreach to more Black atheists and within the Black community. And there were a series of things that occurred. I had I was fortunate enough to connect with some of the other organizers and leaders. I also volunteered with Recovering from Religion, that was founded by Darrell Ray, and so I got to know him. And going to the American Atheist Convention, keeping in contact with the organizers and the leaders there, and forging that partnership, I had the opportunity to speak at one of their regional events later on that year, which took place in Fort Lauderdale. And I was a bit nervous because that was my first time speaking to the public in a long time. And so, I think I went longer than I went over my time, but they allowed me to go over a few minutes. And I did a presentation I did a presentation, of course. I did a PowerPoint presentation. So I didn't time that well, and I'll, in the future, I learned how to do that better. But I also sent my kids I also volunteered with Camp Quest that year. Got to know Amy Monsky, who's with Camp Quest, South Carolina. And so, and also attending other events where I knew the organizers would be. And so, participating, volunteering, and working with other groups, all while continuing to develop Black non-believers, made all the difference. So whenever there were certain events that I knew would be of interest, or where there was an opportunity for us to, be out there, I made sure that we were there. And so that led to other organizers recommending me, to speak. And also, I connected with Debbie Goddard with African Americans for Humanism. That was the year that we started working on they started working on the Billboard campaign. So everything just started falling into place at the same time. There was like a growth spurt, if you will. And from there, I received other media inquiries. It was, 2012 that Jet Magazine had contacted me, and they wanted to interview me. And this was right before the Reason Rally. And that was the first year I had put on an event out of state. right after we did a Reason Rally after party, which featured Gray and Square, who we also had at the Atlanta Coalition of Reasons launch event. But it was a matter of, and then also because I had availed myself to, the other groups and organizations that invited me to speak, and also the other events that they had. And as we started putting on our own events, we hosted the Blackout Rally, the Blackout Secular Rally in 2013 in New York City, along with Black Atheists of America. And at that time, I had started attending the secular leadership summits that were taking place nationally. And I had been invited to serve on different boards at that time. So with those things happening, I was connected to more people, and I guess the word started getting out. And I can say that I've been the most consistent when it came to my presence, my engagement, and people actually liking what I have to say. So that was very much appreciated too. So the more I engaged, the more I became involved, the more I was invited to speak. And so that really started taking off in 2014, where I had started being invited to speak at larger conventions. The first large one was in 2013 at the American Atheist Convention. I remember I talked about Black non-believers, and I received a standing ovation, which was awesome. I also did other regional events too. And so basically I would say my inability to say no has led there. But, we'll definitely go with, my engaging, and pretty much when I was invited to go, I went. And the more I connected with folks, the more we participated and collaborated, the more the momentum built. And so, and also going through some things within the community, and just learning how to overcome and work through them, made a difference. So, I'm fortunate. I consider myself fortunate, and it has been, it's been an interesting ride, but I'm very happy, to be here, and also displaying other talents too. I do sing, and so again, whenever I was asked to do certain things, and avail myself, I just did it.
Yeah, there's something to be said for being available, and of course showing off your talents when you have the opportunity. Now, you've mentioned how you've been in the community for a while. I'll let you decide which one to lead on, but since you've been in kind of the atheist secular community, what's one major negative and positive change that you've noticed in all this time? And I know I'm asking you for one thing, but at least I'm not asking you for your favorite kid, right? So there's something.
Right. Yeah. So a very, very positive thing is seeing the change and the growth in the community. In addition to Black non-believers, you also have other groups that have started within that time. You have ex-Muslims of North America. You have the Hispanic American freethinkers. You have secular women. There are many groups now that actually some have existed a bit longer than ours, but it's been a good learning experience, and it's been great to know that there has been diversity and other organizations that serve different needs, and that people can become a part of. One of the negative things that I have seen is, people who come to the community and they want to have this big voice, and some have been able to catapult to a certain level of stardom, if you will. And, unfortunately, there has been some lack of, there's been some accountability, but, there's still this. The one thing I've always said when I became involved was that there are a lot of people who have left left the church and have left God behind, but they still have a lot of other baggage. They brought along other baggage with them. And so this idea of, this community still being very male dominated, white male dominated, but still male dominated, this idea that, the white males are the default, they're the ones who are, doing the most. And that has led to some dismissal of behaviors that have been very hurtful to people until recently. There's a lot that there were things that were happening with certain folks that weren't necessarily being addressed recently. And so, but yes, this very, very still male dominated, community, has been something that has needed to improve and still needs to improve. And, who we look at as the go-tos definitely, should be changing. But I mean, overall, it has been more positive than anything else, and certainly do appreciate that.
Now, you showed a lot of courage recently, making a big personal move. So what led to you deciding to be a full-time activist?
The need for it was a need for it. Over the years, as I hopefully have clearly expressed, things have gotten busier. The request to speak and the request to work on different projects has increased over the years. And I was, working. We started Black Nonbelievers while I was working at my full-time job at the Centers for Disease Control. And after a while, their requests to speak and collaborate and participate really started taking a priority for me. And I was at the job for about a little short of 10 years. It was a job that I loved to do, and I learned how to, develop my craft, but it became clear that the need for me to become more active in this movement, even more than I already was, it was time for me to take that leap. And I had already been brainstorming that for the past couple of years, but I wanted to make sure that we didn't grow too fast, because there are some instances with some organizations where as they grow very fast, they've started running into these issues. And I wanted to make sure that we avoided that. But this became the year that it became time. There were a couple of work issues, the issues at work that where I felt like there was no more room for growth there. And I was working around a very interesting situation at work. I started. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this is where my time needed to, this is where my time needed to be focused, and for growing the organization, growing the community, helping to grow the community, in the various roles that I have. And so I just decided that it was time for me to jump all the way in. I feel like I already am start doing what I love. And, here we are now.
But what made you think atheist activism? Now that's where the money is.
Oh, I know. I didn't say that was where the money is, but what was interesting is that there is a tremendous opportunity. We have received more generous support over the years that has continued to grow, which we definitely appreciate. It has allowed for us to, grow, expand, and be able to, raise more funds for us to be able to get to that point where, I can become an employee of my own organization or perhaps another organization. It was like, and then also too, I can appreciate the fact that I have, I have been able to command, that whenever I speak now that, I can, and demand, I can request an honorarium or speaking fee. I can, people can appreciate that and I can appreciate that. I know, and I also appreciate that, the community finds what I have to say and what I do valuable, because Black Nonbelievers has been the organization, the most consistent Black organization out there. When we started, there were few. There were quite a few out there. They were a bit active, but we have been the organization that has been the most consistent. And that's something I'm very proud of. And that does warrant, that warrants being able to, benefit from, I'm sorry. That does warrant me being able to, be more active and be able to at least try to make a living within this community. Of course, it didn't start off like that. Like I said, I was trying, to buy my time by keeping my full-time job, but also, with the increasing demand of my family as well, that also became a priority. So, yeah, I decided, I'm not saying, of course, I'm, like I said at the meeting, there's no getting rich off of this, but if there is now an opportunity to, be able to make a living in this community that I've become involved with and that I love, now is the time to do it.
Now, when did you get the idea to start other branches of Black Nonbelievers, and how many are there now, and how great is it to be able to kind of create these communities in other parts of the country?
So when we attended, there were, in 2011, there were people who started, they expressed interest in starting being groups in their areas. The first one was in Orlando. The person, there were folks who genuinely wanted to start, groups in their areas, and so the team at the time we got together and decided that it would be best to shorten our name to Black Nonbelievers, so that we could be that hub, so we could be that starting point for those who wanted to start, the shoot off groups, the affiliates, and we would be that support. We would be that hub for them, so it started back the same year that we were founded, and we are now up to 12 affiliates or chapters. The most recent was started in St. Louis. I just received an inquiry today from someone in the Las Vegas area, and that has been, we get people who want to start groups in their areas. I've always encouraged people to attend what's already there and see what they're lacking, and see if there is a need to start a being group, before they have to, if there's actually a need for it. But, there are people who, like I said, they do contact us about groups in their areas. We have had a couple of groups that have come and gone. We used to have one in Memphis and Chicago, but unfortunately those groups died down because, like a lot of groups in this community, people like to start something. There's initial excitement, but then when people realize that you must be consistent, the enthusiasm and then life gets in the way. And then also dealing with people and, dealing with people can be very, very interesting, to put it mildly. So, to try to keep up with folks, like you said, herding cats, this side, and many people, again, don't realize what it takes to keep things going. And so then they, then things tend to die out, or they put their own personal ambitions before the mission, and that gets in the way as well. And I've had to manage that part of it. And it's been great. It has been an amazing thing to be able to grow the organization the way we have. Validates the need. It proves why, we exist. And also opportunity to start organizing in their areas, because what people need to understand is that you can't just wish it. You can't just wish that it would, that it would appear or it would happen. But you have to make it happen. That was something. There wasn't a group for Black atheists that was building that community on the ground until we started it. And so, and it's still new. It's still in its infancy. So it's going to be up to people to actually get involved and be serious about it. And so it gives the opportunity to mentor and groom new activists, which I'm very happy about that we have successfully done. It gives more folks the opportunity to speak up. We can hear their voices and hear, and produce content and material and evidence for the community. And so that has been a very, very gratifying experience for me.
Now, you've become a very important voice in the community, but now your voice is going to new, new jobs. But so with Association with American Atheists, this was one of the speeches I heard you say. So what's the audio book you're going to be working on, and what's happening with that?
Well, I was approached by one of the my fellow board members to narrate one of Madeline Murray O'Hare's books, An Atheist Epic. I'm not sure when that project will take place, considering the most recent transition, but I will, considering everything, I will, wait until that still remains to be seen or to be determined. But I think what's important about it is to introduce Madeline Murray O'Hare's voice back into the community, and to show her as an important part of American Atheists. So when we're able to do that, then that's when it will come about. I'm not sure exactly when right now. So that's one of the projects that to work on. I'm also slated to work on a Godless album with Dan Barker with the Freedom from Religion Foundation. That's also been in the works. He's, Dan, for those who don't know Dan Barker, he's one of the co-presidents of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And he's also talented. He's also a pianist and a composer. And he and I, when I talked about, my talents, in 2014 in Raleigh, North Carolina, they had a mini convention there, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, along with their affiliate there, the Triangle Freethought Society. And, Dan was on the piano, and I mentioned that I sing. And so we did an impromptu version of Ain't No Stopping Us Now with him playing on the piano. And, everybody loved it, which, was great. And so, I'm glad he never forgot that. And so we started brainstorming a Godless album, because when people leave the church, and this, that's one of the things I can appreciate about Sunday Assembly as well. People leave the church, they may have played in their church bands, but also they're musicians by trade or by hobby. And that's a talent that shouldn't go to waste simply because the religious church anymore. So, and Dan being a former minister, and again, with him being a musician and myself, being a musician as well, We're gonna get. I've connected him with a producer and arranger, and so we're gonna start working on this Godless album, in which I will be one of the singers. I'm happy to report that. And I think it's important to show that this community has talent, has a creative talent in addition to intellectual talent and intellectual capability. There's enough diversity to where we can showcase that in this community, and it doesn't have to be associated with anything religious. And I think that is often an important part of what we do. It will also bring another aspect to the community besides the boring people who just read books all the time, which is validation. It's forth, and it shouldn't be.
Now, one of the events I remember for the couple of times I've been on a cruise was a karaoke night. So as a lead-in to the Black Non-Believers cruise that's coming up, if there is a karaoke night, do you have a go-to song? And then let everybody know about this event coming up.
Yes, so we are having our second annual convention at sea from November 24th through the 29th. There is still time to sign up. We also have a cruise match, which is available on Facebook. A generous donor has offered to match up to $750 to cover the cost of a registration and cabin fare, which is the price for. It's a 5-night, 6-day cruise, sailing from out of Miami to Turks and Caicos and the Dominican Republic. And we're going to have some wonderful speakers. There's karaoke every night on the convention and on a cruise. And I love my Ain't No Stopping Us Now, but and those karaoke nights from last year was so much fun. And we didn't get there in time to sign up, but I like looking through the catalog. I love singing Killing Me Softly by Roberta Flack. And I do like to sing Ain't No Stopping Us Now by McFadden and Whitehead. But I'm going to see what else they have that's fun. I'm such a music head, but when it comes to actually thinking of songs to sing right on the spot, I draw blanks. So I'm going to have to, figure that part out. But yes, that is a very, very fun part of the cruise and a part of the convention, which I'm looking forward to. And if you want to, have that extraordinary time with us, it is amazing. I highly recommend it, especially if you have never been on a cruise before, especially with your fellow atheists and heathens or whatever you want to call us. This would be the chance to do so.
And tell me about the upcoming Dragon Con event in Atlanta.
Yes, so Black Non-Believers has been participating with Dragon Con ever since 2014. We skipped last year because I was at another event, and oh my gosh, the organizers were so disappointed, but we're back this year. We've been tabling, and I've been speaking with Dragon Con since 2014, and we'll be there again. Dragon Con is a weekend-long celebration, Labor Day weekend, of gamers. It's a fandom conference. There's always the folks from like Star Trek and different TV shows related to science fiction, science, gaming, and so this is the weekend for that. And there's a skeptic track there, which is for the skeptics, humanists, atheists. And so we have been also the CDC tables at the skeptic track too, which is so interesting. But it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be the parade that they do on Saturday. I don't think I'll be participating this year, but I'll be speaking on the skeptic track at 10 o'clock that Sunday, September 2nd, 10 a.m. And we'll be there with our, with our merchandise and information. And it's a lot of fun. There's thousands of people there. You're going to see a bunch of costumes and people dressed up in their favorite characters. It's a lot of, and it's always been some of our members' favorite, event to attend. So they would just attend on their own. But now we've gotten involved in it, and it's been a good way for us to, it's been good for outreach. Because we've had so many people, there's been some, teenagers and young Black teenagers that were like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. My family gives me so much grief for being an atheist. I cannot be I cannot be out to my parents or my family. And I've also run into older folks who are like, oh my gosh, it's been an experience. I didn't have this support system when I was younger. And so I'm glad to see you here. So we have, we engage and interact with a number of folks at Dragon Con, which is just amazing. And so it's one of our favorite events to attend now. And I'm glad that now we're awesome.
Now, this is usually the part of the show where I ask my guest if they have a joke. But if you want to pass on the joke, I think there's some people listening who would love to hear you sing and get a couple bars. So let me know. It's up to you.
Oh, thanks for putting me on the spot now.
Of course,
Zach.
we're all about.
All right. Well, to go into the theme of us, of the increased visibility, the jumping into activism, especially, and also for those who didn't know, I was one of 5 Black humanists and atheists who were featured on the cover of the Humanist magazine for the July-August issue. I was also featured in Playboy in an article there. I just love saying that I was in Playboy, but that's always fun to do. Just for that, I will say, ain't no stopping us now. We're on the move. How's that?
Nice. That's good. See, maybe it isn't a joke thing. It's more of, okay, if you don't have a joke, do you have a talent? Of course everybody has a talent. Now tell people, before we call it a night, where can they follow you and Black Non-Believers, and of course all links will be available in the show notes because I know you all read them.
Yeah. Yes, so first and foremost, you may find us on the web at blacknonbelievers.org. It will revert to blacknonbelievers.wordpress.com, but if you type in blacknonbelievers.org, our website will come up. You can also find us on Meetup. There are links to all of our Meetup groups on our website. We are also on Twitter at BNonbelievers. The B and the N are capitalized. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BlackNonbelievers. We have a public page. We also have a closed group, but we do monitor who is in there. We try to be careful and watch out for believers who might try to get in the group. You can find me on Twitter at Mandy0904. I also have a Patreon account that you can support, and you can help support my activism at patreon.com/Mandisa Latifa. You won't be able to search it. You would have to type in the link because it contains adult language because of some of the very I do tend to be very tactful in my approach, but some of the subject matter may be graphic and too kind of brash, or I tend to be a little unorthodox, if you will. .com/Mandisa Latifa is you can make a pledge monthly and support my activism there. Yes, those are all of the links I can think of right now. But yes, if you'd like to support Black non-believers and support me in both, that would be awesome. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
Well, I'm glad I finally had you on. Thank you to Mandisa Latifah Thomas for being on the show, and Black non-believers, everybody, get on the train.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Well, I'll just say thank you and good night.
All right. Good night.
How long was that?
I've read. Now, this has been the week that the legal podcasting community has lost its shit, but let's not forget about our own community. Last Sunday I did something rare. I went to a room with all but one stranger and left with a few friends and one dude who was pretty sure I was an FBI plant. I joined the Atlanta Black Non-Believers for their monthly social. I got a rare feeling at an atheist meetup. I was the only white dude. I do kind of wish one more white guy showed up later so people would have opened up the chair next to me, because everyone in the room would have assumed we knew each other, because that's how white folk do. It was a good thing to do. The meeting, not the white folk line. I already regret it. I don't get out often, and I do not at all feel comfortable in the presence of strangers. Guess what? The world is filled with strangers, and to a very large percentage of the world, I am the stranger. Please do check out Contrapoints' latest on YouTube. She is a trans woman who did a recent video on incels. I know they are the whipping boys of the dark web of late. What Contrapoints does that is insane is you actually feel sorry for the guys for a few seconds. We all have to recognize the humanity of all people before thinking, you know what, it's probably good that they have self-selected themselves out of the gene pool, because their opinions on women are trash. Now, if you want to support this show, be like Bobby, Hugh, Teody, Larry, Daryl, and the other Daryl, and there might be another Larry someday soon, and support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/Zachrilege. Follow me on Twitter, like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, send mail, guest ideas, recipes for sure, to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thank you to Mandisa for being on tonight, and I'll end with a partial speech from Malcolm X giving in 1963. And during the few moments we have left, we want to have just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me, us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everyone here can easily understand. We all agree tonight, all of the speakers have agreed, that America has a very serious problem. Not only does America have a very serious problem, but our people have a very serious problem. America's problem is us. We're her problem. The only reason she has a problem is she doesn't want us here. And every time you look at yourself, be you black, brown, red, or yellow, a so-called Negro, you represent a person who poses such a serious problem for America because you're not wanted. Once you face this as a fact, then you can start plotting a course that'll make you appear intelligent instead of unintelligent. What you and I need to do is to learn to forget our differences. When we come together, we don't come together as Baptists or Methodists. You don't catch hell because you're a Baptist, and you don't catch hell because you're a Methodist. You don't catch hell because you're a Methodist or Baptist. You don't catch hell because you're a Democrat or Republican. You don't catch hell because you're a Mason or an Elk. You sure don't catch hell because you're an American, because if you was an American, you wouldn't catch no hell. You catch hell because you're a black man. You catch hell, all of us catch hell, for the same reason. By the way, this is Zach Law here. I am not a black man. I am the opposite of that. Upcoming, I will have Felicia Entwistle of Utah Outcasts, Jennifer and Shay from Waiting for Wrath, and the incomparable, totally not a demon, Arn Ra.